This episode of Warp 5 is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek FM at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the non-profit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join in on the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode or any other, please join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type Babel, that's B-A-B-E-L, into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
Hi, this is Gary Graham, Ambassador Saval in Star Trek. You're listening to Warp 5.
How we doing, Trip? Ready when you are. Prepare for warp.
Course laid in, sir. Request permission to get underway. Let's go.
Welcome, Boomers, to another episode of Warp 5, Trek FM's dedicated Enterprise podcast. I am, once again, your illustrious host, Brandi Jackola. And with me, as always, is Brandon-Shea Mutala. Brandon, how are you this fine evening?
How much is the doggy in the window? Woof,
Woof,
woof.
woof, woof.
The one with the waggly tail. Woof, woof.
That was, were you trying to avoid copyright infringement with that tune?
Woof, woof. Something like that.
Well, I guess you're ready to talk about doggies and windows.
Yes.
That's great. And joining us also, as always, is Patrick Devlin. Patrick, how are you?
I'm good. I have no idea how to follow that rendition of How Much is the Doggy in the Window, so I'll just say hello.
What's new, Pussycat?
Yeah.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Sorry. It's going to be a singing episode, apparently.
Yeah, let's just forget the whole episode. We'll just sing a bunch of random songs.
Oh, that's great. I love karaoke.
Yeah, I'll be the teapot.
Do you think they have karaoke night? They got movie night. Do you think they have karaoke night on the NX-01?
That would be fantastic.
It seems more like a Discovery thing to me.
Yeah, maybe Discovery thing.
Yeah, maybe so, but
I mean, they definitely had like a
know.
90s rap party going on, so...
It wasn't all 90s. They were playing some Al Green in there. Come on. Don't even start with me. Don't even... You're treading on my other purview here, and that's not okay, Patrick. No, I'm kidding. You go ahead and say whatever you want.
It's cool.
Yeah. So, anyway, tonight, on a very special episode of Warp 5, I don't know why I keep doing that, but I do. We are going to talk about everybody's favorite beagle on a ship, our little friend Porthos.
Yeah!
Because Porthos does not get the love that he should. I mean, everybody says, oh, I love Porthos. How much do you love Porthos? Enough to do an entire podcast episode about him? Well, that's how I feel.
We're going to try.
Oh, you don't even know there is so much information about Porthos.
I watched every
so
episode
much.
Porthos was in over the last week to prepare for this.
You did not.
I did not.
No, you did not. There's no way you could. You would have to never have gone to work or slept in order to get all that in.
I watched exactly 0 this week.
Yeah.
I debated
Shameful.
watching every episode, but that's because I just didn't want to go to work.
That's a good reason.
Yes, watching Star Trek is always a good excuse to not go to work, I think. But my boss doesn't see it the same way. So our little friend Porthos, he was one of 4 puppies in a litter. And Porthos and his brothers were, of course, named after the 4 main four musketeers from the Alexandre Dumas novel, The Three Musketeers. So, of course, there was Porthos, Athos, Aramis, and D'Artagnan. And he and his brothers were born to a female dog that was owned by the mother of one of Archer's ex-girlfriends. Awkward. But he loved that dog so much that when she got pregnant, ex-girlfriend's mom called Archer and said, hey, I'm going to let you have one of these puppies. And thus, Porthos began his life with Captain Jonathan Archer.
Is this information that's from the show?
Well, actually, yeah, that information was in the show because it was in the episode A Night in Sickbay.
Oh, my goodness.
Where Archer tells that story about how he got Porthos, because that whole episode is about him trying to get some sleep while also worrying about whether Porthos is going to survive the night.
And being attracted to T'Pol.
And having dreams, frustration of a sexual nature, dreams about T'Pol. So when you're in a stressful situation, I wish that more of my frustration dreams were kind of in that nature instead of not being able to enter a phone number on my phone. So those are my frustration dreams is, I can't find this room I'm supposed to go to. Oh, I'm late for work and I can't seem to get out of this house. Yeah, I would much rather have a sexual frustration dream, to be honest.
Just jump in here on frustration dreams. Has anyone seen the meme with the water pouring out of the outlet and you don't know who to call, a plumber or an electrician? Has anyone seen that on Facebook?
Oh, yeah,
okay.
The electrical.
So I actually have that dream quite regularly now that I've unfortunately seen that because I am an electrician and I hook up wires and I plug something in and then water goes everywhere. And I don't know what to do because I'm not a plumber.
Oh, no.
So you still call one.
Yeah.
If you don't know what to do, then you clearly don't call an electrician. You call a plumber.
Yeah, I would think that you couldn't do anything about the electricity part of it until you do something about the plumbing part of it, because electricity and water don't mix well.
I open it up to see what happened with my wires, and they're gone. It's a horrible dream.
Oh,
There's
no,
just a pipe
that
with
is
water.
Terrible. Oh, that's adorable. I'm sorry.
It's horrible. It's horrible. I wake up in night sweats.
Oh, that is difficult.
And I walk around the job the next day going, no, that's still right. No, that still works. Okay, good. This isn't real.
Yeah, well, I had a frustration dream this morning that I was trying to make sure that my husband was awake to go to work because he changed schedules this week because of training, and I'm just wandering around the house in my night clothes, and it's not really our house, and it's got all of these staircases, which at the time would have been very painful for me to go up and down because of a back problem. And yeah, so it was me wandering around and seeing weird people in my supposed house, and lots of opening doors and saying, oh, I didn't realize you were in here.
Wow.
What is it, Sebastian? Sorry. Eddie is our joke. Sorry. Couldn't help myself. Could not help myself. So back to our favorite beagle. So there was a bit of uncertainty amongst the crew, especially where T'Pol is concerned, as far as bringing a dog onto a warp vessel. But I don't think anything short of death could have separated Archer from that beagle. I mean, he really, really loves that little dog.
No, he would have taken that beagle before he took anyone else.
That is true. I agree with that completely, because he's such a cute dog. Now, I have always loved beagles, but there's just something about having a beagle on a starship that makes Porthos that much cuter. Am I just imagining things?
Well, let me ask you this. That's a beagle. Is that a full-grown beagle, or is that thing a puppy for 4 years? Because that thing is pretty small.
No, that's a full-grown beagle.
Is it really?
Yeah, beagles are not big.
Okay.
Yeah, he gets 20 pounds.
Yeah, they are wee dogs. Mm-hmm. And that's probably another reason why they would be more suitable for life on a starship than, say, a Rottweiler.
I love Mirror Porthos.
Mirror Porthos.
I don't like him as much.
Yeah.
I like real Porthos.
Yeah. Now, Porthos was played by more than one dog over the years. There was a dog named Prada, who was a male, who played Porthos through season 1. And they brought in another dog named Breezy because Prada wasn't as playful. And Breezy was more playful. And so in situations where they wanted Porthos to be begging or playing or doing any of those cute doggy things, they usually brought in Breezy instead. To the point where after season 1, they just had Breezy, and then they brought on another dog named Windy, both of whom were females, Breezy and Windy. So, not that we have ever got a good enough look at Porthos's undercarriage to be able to tell that those were female dogs. And sometimes, in certain situations, because of laws in place to protect animals, they couldn't have the animals for as long as they needed them. And sometimes there were very creatively used stuffed dogs for certain scenes. Can you pick them out? Because now I have to rewatch all of Enterprise to see if I can tell.
I don't think I could tell. There was one definitely in... I don't think they used a real dog when they drowned him in A Night in Sick Bay.
No, that was an animatronic dog.
Okay,
definitely.
good. Yeah, I picked that one out. But I got to ask, these dogs, Breezy and what were they?
Windy.
Do you think those dogs farted a lot? Too much cheese?
I don't know, but Windy,
Maybe they just came
that
from
reminds
Chicago.
me of. Yeah, I don't know. Well, and it is spelled Windy for Windy, so it's definitely Breezy and Windy do go together. Except, now I'm reminded of this song that I'm not going to start singing. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. It's playing in my head right now, and I'm not going to do it. Okay.
Well, I got a question. Do you guys think that it's a believable thing that Archer is this dog lover?
I do, because he doesn't have a steady girlfriend, so he needs something animated to pour all his attention onto.
Well, neither does Picard.
Yeah, but he has a fish.
Yeah, and Picard doesn't seem like the dog type.
No, but dogs are extremely social and affectionate animals, and they want to do anything they can to please their humans, and that makes them extremely loyal companions. And, Archer is going out into the great unknown with a bunch of people he doesn't know very well yet. I mean, yeah, he knows Trip, and yeah, he knows Hoshi and some other people, but he's gotten no previous experience with T'Pol or a lot of the crew. And I think that Porthos is that one touchstone that is like a comfort thing for him. Mm-hmm. No matter what happens, he knows that Porthos is always there for him.
But we do realize that Starfleet eventually outlaws dogs for some reason because Janeway couldn't bring hers.
Well, it depends on what kind of dog it was.
No, Janeway didn't bring hers because Molly was pregnant.
Oh, that's right.
Ah.
All right.
I know my Voyager.
So I'm wrong.
I watch them all.
Fine, I was trying to be smart. That failed.
We love you, Patrick. So... Anyway, do you want me to just go down the list of all of the episodes that Porthos is in? Because there are a lot more than I think people realize.
Well, pick a few. There was a lot. It was a long list. He's in it quite a bit.
Yeah, you could probably actually name the ones he's not in much quicker.
Yeah. Actually, I think I can do this pretty fast. So I'm just going to go down the list really, really fast. Season 1, Broken Bow, Fight or Flight, Strange New World, Unexpected, Terra Nova, Fortunate Son, Cold Front, Silent Enemy, Dear Doctor, Acquisition, Oasis, he was mentioned but not seen, Vox Sola, Fallen Hero, Desert Crossing, 2 Days and 2 Nights, and Shockwave. So basically all of Season 1. Season 2, Dead Stop, A Night in Six Bay, The Seventh, Singularity, The Catwalk, Dawn, only mentioned again, Cogenitor, and The Expanse, only mentioned. Season 3, Anomaly, Raijin, Twilight, Similitude, Carpenter Street, Chosen Realm, Doctor's Orders, Hatchery, Azadi Prime, Damage, The Council, Countdown, 0 Hour. Season 4, Stormfront, The Forge, only mentioned. Daedalus, Babel 1, Affliction, Divergence, and These Are the Voyages.
And a partridge in a pear tree. Sorry.
No, totally appropriate. Nobody knows all the words to that song, but they sure know the 5 gold rings.
And no matter where you are in the neighborhood, if you hear the song, you go running to the person singing it and yell that part. Just the way it works.
That's always how it works.
Oh no, I hear 5 coming. It's down the block. I gotta go. This really is going to be an episode of singing.
See, but in the Canadian Bob and Doug McKenzie, it's 5 golden toques.
Yeah. 4 pounds of back bacon, 3 French toast, 2 turtlenecks, and a beer in a tree.
A beer in a tree?
Yeah, because I have the Great White North album, and I listen
Take off!
To the Great White North. Take off! It's a beauty way to go! Sorry.
$5 is $5, I mean, eh?
Oh boy!
Oh my goodness!
She's basically Canadian. She's from Utah.
Yep, I'm basically Canadian. So, I love Canada. Never been there.
I have.
Never been there.
Like only Niagara Falls, but that counts.
Yeah, that counts. You're in New York. You're close to it. I, however, am not.
Yeah.
Someday.
What am I? I'm like a 9-hour drive.
But we got to talk about the other Porthos mention, right?
Yes, let's talk about Mirror Universe Porthos.
No, the other one.
There's a third.
Oh, you mean the third? The one that appears in mentioning in 2009 Star Trek?
Yeah.
Well, it was never confirmed that was Porthos.
He just said prize beagle. So my assumption is that he just loved beagles so much that he just kept having a beagle and he just kept getting a beagle. That's what I always assumed. I never assumed it was actually Porthos.
Well, but why not?
You know, I didn't either.
Dogs don't live that long.
Yeah, but neither did humans then.
Humans may have lived at that time. They may have lived that long.
Right, so why wouldn't... Okay, I said that wrong.
Because dogs, like, let's say even right now, dogs live like 10% of the life of a human. So if you're doubling the length and the dog is still living 10%, it's only going to live double, not like as long as a human.
Who knows? And plus, they could have cloned them.
I know.
Why? No, they could have bred him.
No, they could have, but I don't like that. I like Porthos.
Okay. Well, Porthos could have had a son that was also named Porthos. Porthos the Second.
But they didn't call him Porthos. They just said prize beagle.
So it could have been named anything. But I still like... I actually agree, but I want it to be Porthos.
Well, fine. It's like Porthos the 12th.
Yeah. Okay. In your head,
the 47th.
Patrick, it's Porthos. All right.
No, I mean, I do agree. It probably was just some lineage down the line of Porthos. But yeah, so whatever. I still like saying Porthos because it actually drives people crazy that I think a dog would live 130 years.
Drives me crazy.
Yep. So I'm going to keep saying it, pushing buttons.
Well, you know, when you think of it that way, if dogs lived that long, you know, what if the human dies? Then you have to will that dog to somebody else.
But look how cute Porthos was. So I'll take him.
I'm sure that you would. But what would the emotional effect be on that dog outliving their human?
Yeah, poor puppy.
Okay, so since you bring this up, okay, so somebody posted that they took Carrie Fisher's dog to the movie theater to show The Last Jedi to the dog, and the dog, like, perked up and, like, had an emotional response every time Leia was on screen, and I'm like, of course it did. She loved that dog and took it everywhere, but what kind of a horrible thing is that to do to a dog? To be like, oh, here's your dead owner. There it is, just kidding. Like, I don't understand why somebody would do that. That's terrible.
Yeah, but the dog would know that that's not his owner because he wouldn't be able to smell her. So he would know that that's not really her.
Yeah, but it'd be confusing for the poor animal.
Yeah, it probably would be, but it's such a
Now you have
dog.
me thinking like I'm a dog here, trying to figure out if I would like or dislike seeing my owner on a TV screen. So going back, but to take that another step, let's just say, because... Hold on. This is actually a valid point. Hold on. So
I believe you.
My dad died when I was young, but I'm a human, so I can actually rationalize TV from real life, right?
Yeah.
So Brandon's, I guess, asserting that the dog doesn't, and Brandy's asserting that it does because it can't smell her. Who knows? I would rather see, I guess if I was a dog, I would rather see pictures of a loved one than not.
True. I would rather, my dad passed away in 2005. And I would rather have pictures of him around the house and up on my poster board wall of people that are gone that should still be here, and instead of just never seeing him again.
Yeah, but we're people and we can rationalize this. This is a dog that can't rationalize that. I mean, I know that there's going to be like 50 people typing the Babel conference right now saying, my dog can drive my car and do math problems. I got the smartest dog. Like, no, okay?
The sad truth is if you drove around my neighborhood, you'd think they were dogs driving. It's so bad. But you would hope they'd let their dogs drive.
That's all driving in Utah. That is everyone in Utah. Nobody knows how to merge. Nobody knows how to signal. It's all...
Oh, that's that little thingy on the side that no one uses, right?
Yeah, your indicator. Yeah. The thing that you can touch without even taking your hand off the wheel. Yeah, that thing.
I think they disconnect them if you enter New York State. So I think the more mean part of this is they brought the dog to like a public movie theater, and now this poor dog's going through an emotional response to its owner in front of like 100 other people.
Yeah, but see, the thing is that dog was already conditioned and trained to be around large groups of people because he was her emotional support
No, I know,
dog.
but I don't want to be around 100 people when I'm watching a video of my dad.
Yeah, but again,
Yeah,
we're
but you're
people.
a human and
We're
you can
different.
rationalize.
I understand that, but I'm also, I, as well as I can rationalize this, I can also realize that I'm going to have an emotional response, which is what the dog's having, right? And something to be private even for a dog.
No. Have you seen them lick themselves?
Yeah, they can lick their privates, so nothing's private.
Then they can just shove their nose right up in yours, too, apparently. And that's okay.
That's how they greet people. That's how they greet other dogs, is they smell their butts. It's like, who are you? Oh, yeah, that's who you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, this is not Princess Leia the dog. This is Porthos the dog.
You know what? I am always the one wandering down tangent lane, so it was refreshing that somebody else did it first this time.
Sorry.
And that was a good tangent.
I'm sorry.
That was way out there.
Tangent. No apologies.
I'm Canadian.
No
Don't take it away from me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Brandon, thank you for apologizing.
Thank
that
you.
was very
I'm sorry.
kind and considerate.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and that's okay. I accept that. I accept your apology. Shut up, New York. Okay. Anyway, here's a little bit of background information as well for the gestation of the character. I don't know how you want to say it, but there's a commentary track for Broken Bow on the Enterprise DVDs and Blu-rays, and Brannon Braga says that he and Rick Berman always wanted to have a dog as a character that appeared regularly, and had been worried that there would be a backlash against their decision to finally include a dog in a Star Trek series. So, because cats are different. Cats are
evil.
No.
Yes.
No.
I have one, and yes.
And I have one, and no.
If I died in my house, my cat would just leave. Go find a new place to live.
No. Your cat would eat your face
and
first.
Then leave.
Then it would leave. Yeah.
That would be the definition of evil in my world.
No, that is the definition of a cat knows how to survive on the streets, yo. Anyway.
These are rough streets in New York.
They're a lot more self-sufficient. They don't crave affection, generally, in the same way that dogs do. And so they're a great kind of pet if you don't want to entertain an animal a lot. Because dogs need a lot of interaction. They need exercise. They need playtime. Sort of like a small child. To keep them, their brains stimulated and to, wear them out so that they'll stop yiping. I'm just kidding. I love dogs. In fact, I live next door to a giant mastiff, and I have never heard that dog bark once. Not once. Yeah. Well, it's the nicest dog I've ever met, is this giant mastiff. His name is Max, and he is the sweetest dog. But anyway, I don't know why they thought there would be backlash in having a dog in a Star Trek series. Why do you guys think that might be?
Have you met any Star Trek fans?
Sorry, I forgot what we were talking about.
Of course. There may not have been, but of course they were worried about it, because they're Star Trek fans.
Period. Yeah, end of story. They worried about doing anything because it's Star Trek. No, but part of the reason I think is what you said. I think the bottom line is some people would be like, well, you can't really take care of a dog on a ship because it can't run around. And that would become a big issue.
Yeah, but we know that Porthos does get out and get around the ship, because whenever Phlox is taking care of Porthos, they're trotting around together. So Porthos does get his time out in the ship. It's just, it's a dangerous place for a dog to be, so you would really want to have them on a leash unless everybody is already in a coma in order to pass through this anomaly. Anyway, sorry.
Best episode with Porthos.
I really did enjoy that episode. But then that's a double negative. I always enjoyed seeing Porthos, even if it was just for a few seconds. Mm-hmm. It made me happy. And besides, Porthos got to go to Risa. Come on, got to run on the beach, meet another dog that he hated. Come on.
Got some little doggy action.
And what dog doesn't like hating another dog?
And that's so funny, because Porthos is such a happy little guy. And so to see him growling at anything that's not like...
He's tiny, Napoleon complex. He's got to let it out there.
Yeah, but other dog wasn't that big either. Anyway, whatever. Maybe Porthos knew something that Archer didn't, because that whole situation didn't go very well. In other words, go watch the episode 2 Days and 2 Nights. It was in season 2, I think, that they started using prop dogs sometime.
Okay.
And for sure, one of them appeared in Twilight, in So if we want to go back and really try and see if we can spot the prop, Twilight is our best option there.
That one was in season 3, though.
Yes, that one's in season 3, which we've already done our season 3 retrospective, so I know. Mm-hmm. The dog that was used in A Night in Sick Bay that was suspended in the tank, and the one resting inside the quarantine tank, both of those were prosthetics, and they were designed and constructed by Joel Harlow. And very well done they were, I think, especially the one inside the quarantine tank. Because you knew that wasn't a real dog, because you couldn't get a real dog to stay that still for that long.
Right.
But it was just really beautifully done. It looked like a real dog to me.
Yeah, it's definitely believable that, wow, how'd they get Porthos to sit in that tank and not drown? But yeah, no, so obviously not a real dog. And I'm sure, I don't know, back then, did they even give the whole, no animals were hurt in the filming of this episode still in 2001? Was that still a thing?
I'm sure it was.
I don't know if they did it. I'm sure that it was. I've never sat through all of the credits, so I would have to... I mean, I have sat through all of the credits, but I wasn't necessarily watching the credits at the time. It is possible that it does say that at the end, and I just didn't notice it.
Yeah, I don't know if that was still a thing. I don't know if that's still a thing now. Is that still a thing now?
Oh, it is totally a thing now.
Yeah, Tarantino was very proud of it. I just watched The Hateful Eight, and there was like a documentary on it, and he's like, I'm very proud that no animals were harmed during this movie, and he like put it right up close in the end credits and everything.
So you assume they're not drowning dogs on Enterprise?
I make a fair assumption, yeah.
Nobody would do that on screen in this day and age. I don't think they'd even do that in the 60s, really. So
probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not.
They have a hard time just making dogs swim at this point, so
yeah.
They're definitely not going to drown them.
Yeah, in the 50s, totally, but 60s, no. 60s were more enlightened time. I'm kidding about both of those things. So there is another thing about Porthos. He is one of only 4 characters that are outside of the main cast that appear in all 4 seasons of Star Trek Enterprise. Can you name the other 3?
4 outside of the main cast. Who's considered the main cast, though?
I can.
Everyone who's in the main credits.
And Brandon, okay.
Porthos is one of 4. Okay.
Who's outside of the main credits that appears every season? Saval, Shran.
Yes.
So you say Porthos, and then it's got to be the Admiral.
Nope.
No? Okay. Who would the last one be that's in all 4 seasons? Patrick, any idea? I got 3 of them.
No,
that's
you
pretty
picked
good.
the 2 easy ones already.
Easy?
You grabbed up the easy ones.
Why are you going to be that way?
I'll give you a hint. He shows up when you least expect it, often pulling
Daniels.
Archer away from something. Yes!
Daniels.
Oh, man. She said least expected. I'm like, well, that's Shran again. What the heck?
That's why I had to add a qualifying statement to that, because...
So, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I guess Daniels is at the start of season 4. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
he's
he is.
like episode 2, I think, right?
Yes.
Or maybe the very beginning of 1. I haven't watched those yet again.
Well, you need to, because...
I know.
There's some really good things in there. Really good things. So many good things. Okay, and... apparently, there is a novelization of the episode The Expanse, which is the last episode of Season 2. And in that novelization, it said that Porthos was originally given to Archer from Becky's mother, having been bred as part of one of her prize litters, and that she was also responsible for naming the dog as well as his brothers. So he was named Porthos, according to that, before he came to Archer.
Okay.
Well, that makes sense, though, because why would all 4 brothers have the same theming if Archer just named one of them?
And these are things I never knew about our dear little dog. The Star Trek Waypoint Issue 4 story, The Fragile Beauty of Loyalty, has Porthos volunteering to travel back in time to Archer's childhood and rescue him after Archer falls through the ice, following a temporal Cold War attempt to kill him before he reaches adulthood.
Yeah, I got to read that comic. We covered it on Literary Treks when we covered By the Book, which was the first original Enterprise novel. I don't know the episode number right off the top of my head, but we covered that comic book as well at that time. And it's kind of cute. It's neat to see Enterprise in a comic, and I really wish they would have done more comics than what they did, because it's only 10 pages, this section of it, because the Waypoint comics had 2 short stories in them. And so, yeah, this is only like a 10-page comic.
Interesting. And there's another literary reference, Patterns of Interference, which is an Enterprise novel. Porthos dies in that novel due to old age in March of 2166, with Archer at his side.
Yes, he does.
I don't like that
That's
one.
the last Enterprise novel that's come out.
Yeah.
You don't like that one?
Yep, I gotta pick one for Literary Treks. Maybe it'll be that one.
They've already covered it.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Have they covered by the book? I'll have to ask Bruce.
I just did. I said, yeah, that's what I just did with them.
He did.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Did they cover the 10 pages of that comic? I'm just kidding. I'm so kidding. It's okay. Bruce has a spreadsheet, so he knows what's been covered. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the whole Porthos being Archer's prized beagle. Screenwriter Roberto Orci was responding to a question on Twitter about whether this was Porthos and whether veterinary science had advanced enough for a dog to live over 100 years.
This would have been for 09.
Yeah, and he said, yes, but the individual who asked the question pleaded for the writer to please say yes. So there's really not much credence we can lend to that.
Please say
I
yes.
believe
Please
him.
say yes.
I believe him.
One other cute thing about Porthos. In 2011, on April Fool's Day, Porthos was interviewed by StarTrek.com.
How did that go? What is your favorite food? Roof!
It was definitely an April Fool's joke. And as an April Fool's joke goes, that's not a very mean-spirited one. I don't like the mean-spirited jokes. Those aren't funny. They're just mean. So I actually didn't mind that, but it is rather silly.
I'm sort of over April Fools in general at this point. If social media has ruined that day anyway.
Yeah, social media has ruined a lot of things.
Every year I got to hear about how the Yankees traded somebody important.
Yeah.
And every year Disney doesn't sell Coca-Cola anymore.
What?
That's the April Fool's joke.
Oh, okay.
Disney's had a long-standing contract with Coca-Cola, so every year they release the same article, and 8 million people go, I can't believe this, how am I going to get my Coca-Cola now? Like as if that's the end of the world for you anyway. And you have to point out it's dated from like 1998. Porthos, yay. April Fool's, boo.
Boo. So apparently there were also a lot of deleted scenes that featured Porthos. And I hope that they're on the extras in the Blu-rays and DVDs, which I do not own yet. Birthday's coming up, Mom and sisters, none of whom listen to this podcast.
Well, you just have to sneak this one on their phone.
Yeah, just say, oh, hey, what's this? Oh, it's this episode of Warp 5 I did about Porthos. Let's have a listen.
Dog, don't worry, this is the only one my wife's listening to. So, speaking of birthday presents, hun. So what's your favorite episode with a minute?
I think Strange New World for me, because I like seeing him jump out of the ship and like running around having fun.
Come back to me. What's your favorite, Patrick?
Mine is the one where they're all in the coma.
Doctor's Orders.
Oh yeah, when he's running around.
Yeah, that's it. I couldn't think of the name off the top of my head, but yeah, Doctor's Orders, because like it starts with him running through and Flock's trying to slow him down and stuff. I thought it was the perfect like Beagle story.
Those two are hard to top. I can tell you one of my favorite Porthos moments, although I don't think it was my favorite Porthos episode, in 0 Hour. At the end of the episode, when T'Pol comes to Phlox and talks about, he asks how she's doing and that there's no trace anymore of Trillium in her system, but she may never be able to regain all of her control over her emotions. And then she nods to Porthos, who's there in sickbay with Phlox, because who's the best person to take care of an animal than Phlox? He takes care of so many. And he says, well, it's like your situation, it's a matter of time, just needs time. And she actually goes over to him and she says, you hear that? You're going to be fine. And she pets him. She pets that little dog. And she seems to enjoy it. She's still not very touchy-feely as far as actual physical touch.
She's been around humans too long.
I don't think she would call it too long, but yeah, that for me was one of the most tender moments in all of Enterprise between a dog and another character. That made me a little misty-eyed, guys. Just a little misty-eyed. I don't know. I think there's so many moments. It's hard for me to pin down one specific episode. I love every moment where he's begging for cheese. Every single moment. See, animals shouldn't have dairy. Don't give cats milk or cream. It's not a good idea. Same thing with cheese. And I know a lot of things, actually, that are not good for dogs because my older sister has a Sheltie. And they definitely found out things that she cannot eat, lest there become a big mess later on.
Oh, chocolate. Don't eat chocolate.
No, chocolate will kill dogs stone dead.
So I have a friend who doesn't believe that theory. Apparently that's just a theory. And she feeds her 150-pound Roddy bags of M&Ms.
Why?
Constantly. And I'm like, you know that it's there's bromine in chocolate, but it'll actually kill a dog. And like, I have two little 20-pound dogs, right? I have these little one's 17 pounds, one's 20. They're Cocker Spaniels, and they got a piece of an M&M once, not even a whole M&M, and that was the worst cleanup I've ever had to do around my house. And she feeds bags of this stuff to her dog. I'm like, you're like slowly poisoning him, and she's like, he's fine, it's okay.
I do not understand that mindset. Now, I understand Archer giving Porthos a treat of cheese every now and again, but he's obviously not always giving the dog cheese, else T'Pol's nasal passages would probably be going off even with the numbing agent. Because she complained about the smell of Porthos.
Yes, that's true, early on.
In the first episode.
Humans, but yeah.
Yep. I mean, really, she doesn't like the smell of us either, so I kind of deal with it. You're stuck on a ship with smells you don't like.
But that's what happens when you work with people for a long time. You begin to trust and respect them, and you become a family.
Bad smells and all.
Bad smells and all. And she even stops taking the numbing agent because she becomes used to it.
Yep.
So yeah, I have trouble picking a specific episode because there's just so many lovely moments from all of them, but you guys' choices are so good.
And now she's from Staten Island.
You know, my name is Stella. I'm from Staten Island. I watched
Staten Island.
I watched a whole documentary. Well, everyone talked like this, and I thought, I don't believe people actually talk like this, and they do.
I don't live anywhere near Staten Island.
I'm glad. I'm so glad for you.
I don't even drive through it. If I have to go south, I go around it the long way just to get to Jersey. And they talk like that there, too, so. Because they all went from Brooklyn to Staten Island to Jersey. Joyzy.
Oh my gosh, that suddenly takes me down another tangent, and I'm not even going to start it. Okay.
We should probably do our final thoughts now.
Oh, is it already that
so.
time? I feel like we've hardly scratched the surface of my favorite little beagle.
A fine furry friend.
Yeah. So, okay, well, Brandon, why don't you start with your final thoughts about our little dog?
I think it's interesting to have him around. It's a really neat addition to our Captain Archer, and it's kind of a cute addition, and I don't think it's 100% necessary, but it's fun to have, and it provides a new layer to a captain that we haven't had before, so that's why I like Porthos, and that's why I like him in the show.
Yes. How about you, Patrick?
Kind of the same thing. I mean, it's just he's good for like a quick feel-good moment here and there. I mean, they did put a couple episodes where, he was sick, but for the most part, Porthos is there to give you look at the cute little, everything's blowing up. So I like that. I like the fact that it's something new. It's not something they've done before. And I like dogs. So it was great. I did find it amazing that I never realized they were different dogs. There has to be color changes that I didn't catch. And those are the kind of things I usually try to catch. But other than that, I love the little guy. And I like a lot of his episodes. So, cool. I'm glad he was around.
I love the addition of Porthos because I also feel that it gives another layer to Archer, who is a bit argumentative in the first half of season 1. he settles down eventually, and I understand why he's that way. I understand the motivations behind that and all of that. So I think that Porthos softens him in that regard, and you're like, he's not a total, jerk, because look at the sweet little dog that he has. And I think that Porthos has had some interesting moments in contributing to the plot here and there, not in a major way, but it's one of those things, if Data can have a cat and Picard can have a fish, then why not a dog? And why didn't anyone think of that before? It's one of those things that I've always enjoyed seeing Porthos, and I always will. He is never wasted
Excellent.
on me.
Well, before we proceed with our Trek FM previously on here, I got some comments from episode 132 of Warp 5, which is our NASA
Fantastic.
episode with Tim Robertson. And Patrick Carlin said it was actually the bar on the Enterprise E and not the Titan that had the name of the Happy Bottom Riding Club. And it said that Worf thinks Riker named it that before he left just to annoy him. And so I said, thank you. I knew Riker was involved somehow. So Corey Elrod says, I'll have to check this movie out. Very often the real men and women behind space exploration get overshadowed by our fictional heroes. I live right outside of Huntsville, Alabama. I grew up I think it's AL is Alabama, right? I'm from Canada. You got a lot of states down there.
Yes.
I grew up with the yearly trips to the Space and Rocket Center. It's all very fascinating. Great discussion. First Flight is one of my favorite episodes of Enterprise. Michael Parkhill says, those were a real special breed of men. I feel very fortunate to have had a chance to interact with many of them that are no longer with us. Somehow along the journey, I shook hands and talked to 8 of the 12 moonwalkers. Chuck Yeager's nephew was in a class in JTOTC class I taught, and Gordo Cooper is from my mom's hometown. I just stood by his Mercury and Gemini capsule at the NASA JSC today. I know John Glenn didn't care for how he was portrayed in the movie, and I also just talked this morning to a NASA scientist whose boss was in the helicopter that retrieved Grissom's capsule. The film made him look bad. NASA and he did not regard as quite a big deal as it was laid out in the film. First Flight is my favorite episode of Enterprise as well. So yeah, we had lots of great comments there. There's a few more, so definitely check out the feed in the Babel Conference, and if you write something down, maybe we'll get it in a future episode for you.
Yeah, excellent. I love hearing people talking about space flight. So that was a fun episode. I really enjoyed having Tim on. So thanks to everyone for their comments on that one. So, but it's been really fun talking about the cutest little beagle who ever lived. But this isn't the only thing we've been discussing on the network. So here's a quick look at some of the other things you may have missed elsewhere on Trek FM.
Previously on Trek.fm, Literary Treks.
But let's start with that first one, that Siege in Super Space. So, oh boy, Super Space. I don't know. Is this better than Subspace? Is it?
Well, I think it is. The thing I really love about this issue is we haven't had many stories at all about super space.
The Edge, a Star Trek Discovery podcast.
Right. So, okay, they're under orders. They're not supposed to talk about it, and that's how you maintain the continuity that Kirk and Spock are surprised that there's a mirror universe. I mean, that works. That makes sense. But these people were there. They know that there's doppelgangers there because they know that because Cadet Tilly became Captain Killy, right? They know this.
To the journey!
There was a lot of face melting in this episode. You're right.
Everyone's melting. What a world! What a world! It was, yeah, and everybody was slimy looking. Why were they so sweaty? Why?
7 of 9 had this full-on Borg Queen look about her.
She did, and who else was really sweaty looking? Besides 7.
Neelix was really sweaty looking.
Well,
I
yeah,
thought
he was.
And he had kind of a silver tone. He had the silver
He
blood
did.
coming
Like,
through.
he was distinguished. Distinguished melting Neelix.
Yes. Yeah, he got a buff and polish.
The 602 Club.
No, I mean, it was really all we had was like animated shows. Like you had like the animated Batman series, the animated Superman series, and as far as the big screen went, it was not so great. I mean, you had Blade. Blade was... Some people cite Blade as kind of the precursor for the superhero genre picking back up, but it was very much kind of a genre film. I know technically it is a comic book film. I don't know if I'd count it in the realm of like big budget superhero movies.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.
So check out all these shows and join in the conversation about your favorite corner of the Star Trek universe and beyond. You'll find us wherever you get your podcast, which is right next to the left of the cheese. If you're an Apple TV user, please be sure to hit the subscribe button in Apple Podcasts and iPhone, iPad, or Apple TV, or the desktop iTunes app to get the latest episodes as soon as they are published. And please leave us a star rating, written review, and don't feed your dogs chocolate. If you're not an Apple user, we've got you covered as well. You can find our shows on Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Windows Phone, and most third-party apps, and you can stream and download the MP3 files from our website, or grab the RSS link as well.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show, and there are many ways for you to do that. The best place to join the larger conversation is the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. BABEL into the search field on Facebook, and it should come right up. If you'd like to send us an email, you can use the form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and select Warp 5. That will come right to us. And you can also find the network on Twitter at TrekFM and on Facebook at facebook.com/TrekFM. So, Brandi, when you're not watching a female dog play a male dog, where can people on the internet find you?
Ooh, well, you can find me many places. I'm on Twitter as BrandyWine12, which is Brandi with an I, wine and the number 12. And I'm also on the network when Discovery is dropping new episodes. We do a show called Live from the Edge at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Monday nights, the day after an episode of Discovery has aired. We only have one more to go.
But when
now.
this airs, it'll have been
ready
done.
To let that
so,
go.
so yeah, you're
I
actually
know,
done now.
I know.
Timey-wimey.
Why are you going to do that?
We're going into the future.
The future is now. And so when Discovery starts up again, Live from the Edge will return. And if I remember correctly, the main show, The Edge, is still going to be running while Discovery is preparing for Season 2. Is that correct, Brandon?
That's the plan.
Excellent. And I also lurk in the Babel Conference frequently. And I do a podcast with my hubby, Dave, called the Dark Corner Podcast, where we talk about stuff and things from a darker point of view. There is swearing. I swear they're swearing. So, Brandon, when you are trying not to feed dogs chocolate, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon-Shea. You can find me here on the network with The Edge, which is our Star Trek Discovery podcast on Fridays. You can find me in the Babel Conference, as well as over on the Fandom Podcast Network and in our own independent feed, finally. We have Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast with my friends Chris and Tom, where we talk about all the Hitchcock movies in chronological order. And we have just one more silent film to come. So we're very excited to be finishing that up very quickly. And Patrick, where can people find you when you're not barking at your master who's in a coma?
Wow.
Rough.
Rough. No, so they can find me on Facebook. I'm always hanging around the Babel Conference. I'm not nearly as busy as the rest of you guys, so it's either there or you can hit me up on Twitter at MagicDrop5. One word, the 5 is a number.
Okay then, if you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/TrekFM. That's patreon.com/TrekFM to get all the details, and perks include early access to episodes, exclusive content, producer credits, and more. It's available through our special patrons website, Patron Zone. It requires a great deal of money to produce, host, and distribute these shows each month, and a great deal of time. We really appreciate any support you can give us and hope you'll join the team. And again, you'll find the details at patreon.com/TrekFM.
And at this time, we'd like to thank our wonderful patron supporters and associate producers of the show. We have Norman C. Lau, Floyd Dorsey, Mike Morrison, Tim Cooper, Justin Ozer, Mark Flessa, and Joe Saltzman. Thank you very much for supporting the show and Trek FM in general. We really, really appreciate it.
That is it for this episode of Warp 5. So join us again next week for another episode. What will it be about?
Next week, it's already recorded. It hasn't been edited yet. We've got our interview with Joelle Bacazzi.
Yes.
Which you may say, who? And she was on the Canadian national water polo team. So we thought we'd do an interview for water polo, because it's Captain Archer's favorite sport. So that's coming up next. That's a lot of fun. And then the week after that, we have Michael Wong and Emily Cutts, who is on the Strange New Worlds podcast. And they'll be coming on to talk about the Xindi as a species. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Excellent. So join us again next week. And boomers, keep calm and boom on. And Windy has stormy eyes that flash at the sound of lies. And Windy has wings to fly above the sky. Sorry, I had to get it out.